Well, the other conspiracy theory around Kamala is that while she was district attorney in San Francisco, she got 1,500 black men put in prison over marijuana charges.
Yeah, she did her job, is what she did,
Right.
which was...
Well, here's the reality of this statement, because I remember when me and DL talked about this, he said the same thing. And then at one point, he actually was face-to-face with her.
Right.
And she said, DL, if that were true, I would be upset as well. But go ahead and do your research.
Yeah, but yeah.
And he did his research. He realized that it's actually not true. She actually locked up around 55 people, which is about half the number of the previous DAs.
Brother, think about this for a second, man. I keep going to this thing. Think about, okay, what part of DL wanted to feed that?
Right, and he apologized publicly for that.
Right, but think about what part of DL wanted that to be true. So he did not do research. But he heard that, and there's something in his spirit that said, man, she locked up a bunch of black men. When you really think about it, is it a part of her job? There's a lot of things. You got to think, okay, what came first? And so is there a part of you that's frustrated that you want to lash out at this person, and you found the material to do that? Or what? Because I would argue that it's what we first feel, and then we find the supportive material, right? Because if we felt good about something, we find material to support how we feel.
Yeah.
On your platform, man, there are a lot of people. There's a lot of inner city, black folks, I don't know of a black person who hasn't been a victim of trauma. If you think about it, okay, little Timmy is spoken to by his teacher this way, and now he's affected. Now he's triggered by ABC. Or somebody misgendered this person. Little Timmy's been misgendered. Or now we start to see in society the effect of some sort of trauma, however little it is, how it can manifest. Okay, if that's true, what the hell about what that black people experienced for generations should affect us? Is there not been trauma, a historical trauma that's in our fathers and grandfathers and everything? These things that trickle down, okay, could you start to step back and see that so many people are victims of some kind, misgendered? How about, being told who you are and defined in the media as this and that or whatever, and you have to figure out who you really are. You know what I mean? In the midst of all that, there's a lot of traumatic people, victims of trauma that are listening right now and don't even realize, because it's just part of the world. And they don't know why they're looking at this post and looking for something to criticize. Oh, this motherfucker. There's going to be a lot of that. But it's just the way of the world. And a lot of people are clicking the button because they want to live vicariously through things. They want to get this out. They want somebody to express their anger, and they look at the gangsterism. They want to live vicariously through that, because we're all suffering a lot of trauma, man. And as long as we're like, feeding that, we're not going to change much of it. We got to kind of step out, right? And know that that's what the case is. But it starts with yourself, you know what I mean? So like the DLs, the me's, the everybody, when we go, oh man, there's a through line to all of this. And we start to look at, okay, we want to see things that support our our implied images. We want to see the things support the way we think.
Yeah.
Then Trump supporters want to see things that would support the way they think.
Right. Echo chambers.
Yeah, man. And
social media is the perfect place for this.
It's the breeding ground for it. But on this flip, if it's in your spirit to be uplifted, you can find that too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can find it, but you got to be looking for it. Because if I hate white people and I think all white people are prejudiced, I'm only going to see the prejudiced white people.
Right.
I'm not going to see the ones that are not, because my mindset is already set for that. And if we start thinking about, okay, is that what we're doing? Can I learn something about myself and step out of it? It all starts with us. I'm on a soapbox right now.
It's all good.
Forgive me. But it's the way I feel. This thing could be positive or negative, depending on our mindset.
Yeah, I used to always think that the whole, behavior being passed down over generations, I always thought it was bullshit. And then recently, I watched a documentary on Netflix about dogs.
Uh-huh.
And what they pointed out that I never realized was that wolves and dogs are 99.99% the same in terms of DNA.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
But what would happen, historically, is as humans started to multiply around the planet, they created a lot of food waste.
Mm-hmm.
And wolves would come by and eat the waste.
Mm-hmm.
Certain wolves that were friendly to humans would be taken in as pets. And then they would be bred with other wolves that were friendly to humans.
Mm-hmm.
It was survival of the nicest, essentially.
Yeah.
So as you would breed these traits, the wolf that would attack you, you wouldn't want around as a pet.
True.
But the wolf that was nice and would eat your food and, would hang out with you and not bite your kids,
mm-hmm.
they would reproduce these wolves. And eventually, now you see all these different dogs, from Cocker Spaniel to St. Bernard to a Rottweiler like I have. And my Rottweiler is great.
Mm-hmm.
I've never been bit by, I'm on my second Rottweiler.
Mm-hmm.
I've never been bit by my dog, ever. And no one in my family has ever been bit by my dog.
Yeah.
But that's the whole thing, that this nice trait of an animal was reproduced and its offspring were nice and its offspring's offspring was nice. So what makes you think that humans whose ancestors were nice aren't going to have offspring that are nice? Humans that have a lot of anger and bitterness have kids that have the same traits to them. It made sense to me after that point.
It's easy to trace certain things. I remember one time, I do a lot of motivational speaking for at-risk. Because I was a school teacher and I taught emotionally disturbed. I remember one time I had given a discussion, I think it was in East St. Louis or someplace like that, where people were saying, hey, Mr. White, why do you think there's so much violence in the Black community? And I said, wait a minute, now let's look at that. Well, you go, so where do you think that, violence was introduced into the Black family? And where do you think they got the idea from, I'm going to get this leather belt and I'm going to whip you and I'm going to tell you how many lashes I'm going to hit you with? You think that's something that we developed in Africa? Do you really think so? So where did they get that from?
Although Africa has been historically very violent, let's not just say that Africa was kumbaya and everyone loved each other.
I'm saying what I'm saying. You trying to turn it into something else. You trying to detour. I'm bringing it back on the road. I'm saying something very specific.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm saying something very specific.
Okay.
Where the hell did they get an idea to grab a belt and use a leather belt to whip their children into complying?
Okay.
Or using that as a tool.
Okay. Hold on. I'm going to push back on this. Well,
let me finish. And I'm going to tell you how many lashes you're going to get. Okay. And violence became a tool, right?
Okay.
And an expression of frustration and make you comply and do things I want. So, you are going to get a what? Whipping. That's not an African word, is it? So, okay, introducing violence to Black folks as a tool. plain and simple, without turning anything, where the hell do you think that, you obviously know where that came from. And, me whipping you is, that's an expression of love and it's keeping you straight or whatever, as opposed to using anything else, articulation, or anything else as a tool. And so on the street, when somebody gets pissed off at me, I'm gonna whoop their ass. I'm gonna whip their ass. Nah, yeah, that's an African thing, right? Come on. You go ahead and try to push back on that.
Okay. This is the way I'm going to push back on it.
Mm-hmm.
Physical punishment with children has historically been around the world.
That's a very broad way. I'm saying very specific.
It's just recently, I think this is a relatively recent thing, particularly in America. I'm not sure how it is in other countries because I only live here. But my parents whooped me with a belt a few times growing up, and they're from the Ukraine. They have nothing to do with slavery or anything else like that. There's no ancestors or whatever else. I think in general, parents would whip their children historically because that was considered okay. Even teachers would whoop students. And that was considered perfectly legal up until maybe 20, 30 years ago.
They both could coexist and has nothing to do with the other.
I'm just saying, it's not unique to black kids getting whooped by their parents.
Yes, it is.
Really?
I
don't know about that.
Oh, no.
I don't know about it.
It's a past. If you... Okay, you gonna fix...
You're telling me that white parents wouldn't whoop their children in the 1800s, 1900s, the 50s, the 60s?
So I'm gonna ask you.
I got whooped by my parents. I'm telling you.
You're gonna answer this. You're gonna answer this honestly right now.
Okay, let's go.
You think it's the same ratio?
Yeah, I do actually.
Think about it a little bit longer.
I think so.
You think that white parent? Believe me. You think there's a possibility that little Johnny ain't going to say, fuck you, mom, and all that type of shit if they got whipped?
I think it goes into...
Stop it.
I think it goes into the economic levels and
Listen
education
to what
levels
I
of the
just
family.
said.
I think that if you go to trailer homes around the country, poor white kids are getting whooped.
You just went to trailer homes. Wait. Listen to what
I think.
Hear what I'm saying. Hear what I'm saying.
Do you think the rich black families?
Wait. When I just described little Johnny cussing his mother out, you know why I wanted to talk about a trailer. You know good and damn well I wasn't. You're going to the bottom 12% of white people.
I think it's an economic thing. I think that rich black parents probably whoop their kids less
of course not.
Than poor black parents.
Of course, but
right? Because of the education level.
You keep changing things.
And the economic level.
You keep changing things.
I'm not talking about I'm saying it's the economic thing.
Okay.
I think poor people are more prone to violence than rich people.
Exactly.
And that's not a good thing. I'm not happy about that.
I will tell you right now that poor black people and poor white people are pretty much the same damn people.
Exactly. That's my point.
But that's not what I'm point. That's not my point. That's not my point. What I'm saying is a majority. Okay, you're talking about the bottom 12% of white people, and I don't think all of them do that. I think, poor black people account for a larger percentage. Therefore, there's a larger percentage of black people who grew up with that construct. You can't tell me that it was introduced by the slave masters. So, you mean to tell me in the 1950s there exists a black person who hadn't been whipped by their parent? Do you think that was possible?
Absolutely. In
the 1950s.
In the 1950s.
So we disagree because I would venture a guess that nobody had not been whipped by their parent. I'm talking like a damn near 100%.
Okay, so you're saying in a black household in the 1950s where
there's no black person who had not been whipped.
Parents are educated and have good jobs, they approach the rearing of their children in the same way as a poor black family? I don't think so.
No,
I think they approach it. I think once you have education and once you have a certain amount of money, you approach things a little bit differently.
Just answer
That's all I'm saying.
So, I'm saying, so you think that there's somebody in the 50s, right? A black person in the 50s that hadn't been whipped by their parent. That's what you're saying. So you say you don't think so. We disagree.
I think that as a parent,
you say
not every parent,
not talking about as a parent
beats their kids.
Listen to what I'm saying.
You're saying every parent in the 50s that was black beat their kids.
No, that's not
100%. No, that's what you're saying, right?
No, you keep changing my. I gave it to you in a very simple way.
You said, do you think there's a black family in the 50s that didn't beat their kids? A black person.
A black person.
Okay.
In the 50s who hadn't been beaten by one of their parents.
Yes, I think there was plenty.
Okay. I disagree.
You're a father. Have you beaten your kids?
I'm not from the 50s.
You're a father. Have you ever beaten your kids?
No, I have not.
Because I think that parents approach child rearing differently depending on who they are.
Yes, but that's not my argument.
Certain parents will say, I'm not going to hit my kids. I'm going to reason with them.
If you're a black person in the 50s, you were born earlier. I'm not saying a fetus in the 50s.
Yeah, if you were in the 20s or 30s in the 50s?
Yeah, I don't.
So you were born in the 30s?
Yeah, because believe me, in a very short time, we're talking about the descendants of slaves.
Yeah.
Right? So to actually argue this point is kind of funny. But so at least you would say there's the majority of black people were very close to being, I mean, it's not like we came up rich. It's almost like, well, yeah, in the 50s, there's these black people who were allowed to live in the same circumstances that, no, we couldn't do that, first and foremost. So simply, that has been introduced. Violence was introduced in our culture, Black American culture, in a much different way. That was introduced and put upon us. And violence as a method of communication, therefore, has been introduced to us in an exorbitant way. Plain and simple. You know that that's true. Because, again, somebody will walk out right now. I get pissed off. The thought is, I'll whip your ass. Okay? There's a direct correlation. And so I don't know if you think that I'm trying to say something more profound. I'm just saying, in our society, there's a big difference. And it's the reason why a lot of people fear us. And a lot of people think of, I don't want to deal, violence has been, if imagine I'm a black guy from the inner city and I say I've never been in a fight. You'd be like, you never been in a fight?
Once again, economic. You're talking about an economic situation. I could show you a whole bunch of black people who grew up upper class, grew up in Calabasas, grew up in gated communities, who have never been in fights.
Every time I say this, you talk about the smallest percentage of black people.
I think it comes down to economics. I think it comes down to environment. I think it comes down to the education of the family. Behavior.
We agree on that.
But behavior. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. And even in lower economic situations, there are people who break the cycle. Yes, my mom beat me, but when I have kids, I'm not going to beat my kids.
No,
my mom was on drugs.
There's no argument to that. But what you're choosing to do is take the smallest percentage of what I'm talking about and to discredit a larger percentage.
Man. I don't think any parent enjoys beating their kids.
Are there more rich black people than poor?
Are there more rich people than poor?
People.
Take the word black out of it. Rich people are the minority, period.
You don't want to answer one of my questions.
Rich people are the minority, period. Yes. Unfortunately, in America, there's a higher percentage of poor black people than there are people of other races, unfortunately. Right. I think it's slowly changing over time. Mm-hmm. And now, when you look at sort of America, the biggest growing group is who?
Biracial.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So now it's all kind of becoming all mishmash anyways. You know what I'm saying? Are you black? Are you white? I don't know. I'm 1/4 black. Am I really black? According to who? You see what I'm saying? It's now becoming very gray area and so forth. But to say that every black child
I didn't
was
say
beaten by their parents, and that's just the way it was all across the board. I don't think that there's.
It's easy
as
to,
a parent, I don't
if
think
you
this is
restate
true.
my statement in your own way, right? Which is not my statement. It sounds much better. I give you that. If I said that now,
Yeah.
it don't make no damn sense.
Right.
But, but we disagree.
We can agree to disagree.
In the 50s, I think a lot of black folks got their ass whooped.
Obviously, the violence of slavery carried on even to today.
Yeah.
No, I'm not the person that's saying, "Oh, slavery's over, so racism has gone away." No, I understand that. I understand. Even like, and I've talked about this before. It didn't really dawn on me as to how intrinsic slavery, the effects of slavery was in America until I went to Africa.
Oh yeah.
I went to Senegal and I realized there's really no racial tension out here.
Right, yeah.
I'm hanging around all these black people in Senegal that are perfectly okay being black and me being white, and there's no tension. There's no history of slavery.
True, yeah.
It's like, yo, I'm just a regular guy that they're running into, whatever my color is.
Like me being
this
in
is
Africa,
their shit. I'm a visitor in their country.
Yeah.
Their president is black. Their vice president is black.
Yeah.
Everyone in the government is black.
Yeah.
People in the banks are black. Like, I'm an oddball.
I felt like,
there's no racism.
I'm out in Africa and I'm going, what? Damn, I could hitchhike here.
Yeah.
But
have you ever picked up a hitchhiker?
No.
One of the worst decisions of my life.
Yes, we did.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, man. In college, man, we picked up a prostitute, and we didn't know she was a prostitute. We thought it was a girl that just needed a ride.
Right.
Man, we're pivoting on these things.
Yeah.
but
that was Eddie Murphy's excuse when he picked up the transgender, by the way.
Yeah, well, this wasn't a transgender. This is a real woman, and we're like, yeah, we're going to drop you off. And she's like, you going to drop me off? I thought it was going. I was like, oh shit. And then we turned it into an interview when we figured it out. And it was like, hey, I asked every question I ever wanted to ask a prostitute because I never, met one like that before. But how did we get here? Oh, but let me
hold on. Let me just tell you my hitchhiker story.
Yeah.
The one and only time in my life. I don't think I've ever told this on camera before. I was 16. I had just got my license and I had a truck. Right, I had a Nissan truck with a shell on the back. And I was a few blocks away from my house, and at a gas station, there was a guy in a wheelchair that was flagging me down.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, oh, there's a guy in a wheelchair. Let me pull over. So he's like, hey, man, I don't have any money. Do you think you can give me a ride home? I live like maybe 15, 20 minutes away. And I'm like, okay, sure. It's a guy in a wheelchair. I'm trying to help out. Put his wheelchair in the back, sit him in the front seat. And as we're driving, he's like, yeah, I just got back from Vegas. That's where all the snakes, and they all want to kill you. But I know how to get away from them. I hold my breath as long as I can until I black out.
Oh, man.
And I'm driving, going like, well, this is the way it's going to end for me. This guy's going to kill me and bury me somewhere, drive off with my truck. Mental note, never pick up another hitchhiker for the rest of your life. And that was the end of the story. I dropped him off and never looked back.
That's good. He killed the next person.